Hello and welcome to the Insurance Times webinar in association with Aviva on digital acceleration. Today, we're going to be exploring four areas. The four areas we're going to be discussing are the changing digital landscape and how the pandemic has accelerated digital adoption and strategic plans, the current challenges brokers are facing digitally and what insurers need to do to support them. The third area will be how the importance of digital trading and support will continue to shift and evolve in a post-pandemic world as businesses return to normal. And finally, we'll be speaking about how are Aviva continuing to invest and commit to digital to provide better outcomes for you and your clients. Before I ask the panel to introduce themselves and tell you all about their roles and their focus for the last couple of years, let me take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Sarvan Shah and I am Head of Research for Insurance Times. I predominantly manage many of the research projects that we do, including the 2001 eTrading survey, the commercial lines survey, personal lines survey, and what we have currently ongoing is the 2021 MGA survey. So I'd like to pass it on to the panelists now, if they could introduce themselves and tell everyone a little bit about their roles.
Okay, thanks, Savan, and morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. My name is Maria Crocker. I'm the Director for Digital Trading and Automation within our commercial lines within Aviva. I'm really proud of the results that we've seen through the e-trading survey, and I'm keen to recognise from our perspective that this survey, along with other insights, really play a key part in terms of what we invest in and what we do going forward. So really valuable input for us. And today I'm really happy to have a couple of the team along to support me in this conversation. So I'll hand over to David. Just before we carry on, there is a bit of background noise. I don't know if anyone else can hear that, but maybe we should just go on mute when we're not talking, guys. So hand over to you, David.
Thanks, Maria, and morning, everyone. So just to introduce myself, I'm David Hockey. I'm Head of Digital Trading at Aviva, and my principal responsibilities are our trading performance and also our digital change agenda. So my area of focus over the last couple of years has been on ensuring we continue to grow profitably within Aviva, but also critically how we evolve our broker propositions through our change agenda, making sure we're developing the right capabilities and solutions for our broker community. And now I'd like to hand over to our colleague.
Thanks, David. Raoul Suthers, Head of Sales and Distribution for the North and West region. The role of my team, and particularly over the last 12 months, is to ensure we communicate well with brokers, listen to what they need, and make sure that they've got the very best access to all that Aviva can offer. The last 12 months has certainly tested us in that regard, for sure.
So the first area we're going to be exploring today is all about the changing digital landscape and how the pandemic has accelerated digital adoption and strategic plans. Now, before I pass it on to the panel, I wanted to touch upon some of the research that Insurance Times conducts. And what we have found is that, clearly businesses have had to, adapt and evolve over the last 12 to 18 months. In a previous research project earlier in the year, we asked brokers where they feel the investments will be, what they will be investing in now compared to what they will be investing in within the next 3 years. And what we found was that brokers now are currently looking, and this was 77% of brokers felt that they were going to be investing in cloud-based technologies to improve operational efficiency. They also said that the second highest proportion was data analytics with 70%, and also agile development. And looking over the kind of the next 3 years, 96% of brokers felt that investment was going to occur in internal blockchain applications. And that was followed closely by customer-facing blockchain, but then also AI-based technologies to improve client-facing processes. We also asked brokers, what are they currently doing within their brokerage? And we gave them a whole range of options to choose from. And the three leading options was evolving communication and marketing to be more digital, using a broker management system. And the third one was building security and privacy into website devices and applications. We've also seen that those insurers that ranked most highly in the 2021 eTrading survey also maintained that high level of service and support throughout the pandemic. Now I want to pass it on to the panel and ask the panel, what changes have you seen and how are brokers adapting and adopting digital to benefit their businesses?
Okay, so first of all, I think, both personally and from a business perspective, we've all seen significant change in the last 12 months. And, really interesting, if someone had asked us to plan for the pandemic, we probably would have said, well, give us 6 months, it'll cost us quite a lot of money. And we probably conclude that it would take us really a long time to maintain and deliver service to our customers. I'm super proud of the rapid response at the start of the pandemic to ensure that our communication channels remained open and our underwriters were accessible to our customers, maintaining high levels of support for all of the mediums for customer contact. So going back to communication and accessibility. The pandemic really brought to light the convenience and ease and accessibility that eTrade offered. And again, really important for us was we had already started a plan of investment in increasing our capability in that space. And that really helped us to deliver what I think is exceptional support during really challenging times for our customers. And I think it's really interesting that our customers are talking about the investment at that level, Savan, around 77% around efficiency data. We've also been investing not just in our platform capability, but in our people that support those platforms. So being there, making sure that we've got the right capacity to deal with the demand that's coming through. But also we've been investing in the mediums that support our customers. So we've seen investment in our Aviva broker investment in our platform there, which has been really critical during this period to provide access for brokers on things like ARMS, Back to Business campaign, and wider support that we also provide. So digital support is not just in the trading platforms, it is in lots of mediums, and we have been investing and supporting that. Raoul, do you want to sort of comment from a broker perspective?
Yeah, I mean, certainly things move so fast, and I think we forget almost how fast it moved in that sort of first week. It really challenged brokers. It challenged big organizations like us that have the resources, but when you're a relatively small broker, implementing the business continuity plan that you perhaps never thought you were ever going to have to implement, sourcing the equipment, there was a shortage of laptops because everyone was working from home, kids were working from home, getting staff operational, cover questions from customers. Customers were in a terrible state of panic almost at the very beginning of this, not knowing whether or not their businesses would survive, and even non-insurance matters. So the sort of critical thing for most brokers, number one, was how do they communicate with their customers from the position of all that backdrop, and how do they help them survive that crisis. And what I think that the thing that very quickly emerged was the brokers that had invested heavily in technology as part of their normal business investment plans were able to very quickly adapt. And actually, I thought it was enormously impressive just how many brokers were able to very quickly move staff from home, be able to access all their systems, maintain the right governance and controls, and be able to continue with the customer service. And that was incredible. I think where brokers hadn't invested in systems and technology and digital or embraced insurers technology, they were exploited by those other brokers. I think there's plenty of examples where customers simply couldn't get through to their broker and therefore turned to the other offers that they get every single day from other brokers. So that was the core point, I think. Certainly from those brokers, it was interesting. Again, there were brokers that had an enormous amount of optimism in the very early days, because I think they felt strong and prepared, and had almost impressed themselves how they were able to react to what was, a really unprecedented situation. Similar with insurers, we've used technology to communicate with brokers. So throughout the whole of the pandemic, I don't think it's wrong to say very few of us, even within Aviva, even had used Teams or Zoom or any other technology to communicate. And very quickly, we had to embrace that stuff, webinars, just to help support our brokers in supporting their customers. And certainly in respect of our digital offerings, I think, as Maria said, we've had to really understand, and whilst we'd already started the development, I think for us, it just accelerated it even more. We had to push even harder and respond to the broker feedback that we'd got.
Yeah, and I think, we've got continued investment in automation and digital. So, David, it's probably worth you picking up on some of the things that we're going to continue to be doing in that space.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. Yeah, so for us, we saw that acceleration of digitization. COVID was a clear catalyst as the whole industry, insurers ourselves, adapted. We're really proud of the sort of level of ongoing improvement and innovation that we brought into play following COVID. Last year we actually not did we slow down, we sped up in terms of the level of innovation. So 230 different changes our teams delivered last year in terms of improvements in our broker propositions. And that was a combination of just the small things that make the difference, that we get feedback around, which make that journey that bit easier to navigate, or deal with certain pinch points, but also the more transformational items. So last year, one of our critical deliveries that we provided was for our motor proposition. So our motor fast trade proposition, we extended that further. We'd heard from our brokers that there was difficulty in placing single vehicle risks, so we extended our proposition. We introduced a single vehicle NCD rated proposition out there for the market, which was a critical delivery that we provided last year. And also just a few improvements. So, in line with Raoul's comments around broker engagement and activity, we did continue to enhance our trading model functionality. So a couple of the smaller items which we believe again make a difference included the ability for underwriters to see what the broker is seeing, co-browsing, so help get to the resolution of the query quicker, and also ability to access multiple quotes. So just a few examples of where we've delivered innovation across the board.
Thank you very much, David. And you mentioned speaking very early on to brokers to kind of ease the usage online and the e-trading kind of journey. How important are brokers in the development kind of each year, and this year being so important?
I would say they're critical. I'm sure the others will comment. We're not the experts in this. We are there to facilitate supporting our customers to enable them to trade effectively, and listening to what are the pain points, where are the opportunities, is critical in the way that we develop our plans. We, as David said, we continue to invest both in the technology, but also in the people capability. I'm a big believer that digital is great enablement, but it needs to be supported by great people behind it in terms of underwriting support. And I think, as we go through this conversation, talking about the move and shift of how that's going to look as we go forward is going to be really important. So, where it's straight through and it creates efficiency and capacity, that's great. But that then enables us to create space for more value conversations where it's appropriate.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Sorry, David.
I think it was wrong.
I was just gonna,
yeah,
right. I was just gonna echo that point really. It's only going to get more critical, and certainly brokers. The feedback that we get, we don't always get it right, There's no question about it. I'm sure there's plenty of brokers that will tell you where it hasn't worked for them, but we use every forum we possibly can to take that feedback in and expose the senior leaders within this business to our brokers so they can hear it firsthand. So we do it through a variety of different methods, and we certainly throughout the pandemic use WebExes. We've used our conferences. Conferences were throughout the last 12 months were almost thought as being a thing of the past, but we've still been able to deliver those digitally and crucially get feedback from those, and then try and act and test and learn and fail, and if we do fail, move on and change. And I think we've really invested in doing that, and I think we've done it pretty well.
Thank you, Raoul. And I think moving on to the next area that we want to discuss in more detail today is the current challenges brokers are facing, and how insurers need to do, to support them going forward. Just touching upon some of the research that we've conducted, we asked brokers, what poses the greatest risk to your brokerage going forward, and 69% of the brokers that took part felt that economic uncertainty was their kind of biggest concern and biggest risk. In second place, brokers stated that customer retention was the biggest risk to their brokerage, and in third place, in joint third place, regulation and remaining competitive. So digitally kind of moving forward, and the benefits that digital transformation can make, and acceleration, and how this year has really put the strategic plans together for everyone kind of digitally. Maria, maybe we could start off with you in terms of the current challenges brokers are facing, and what do you feel Aviva and other insurers need to do to support?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by some of that stats, Savan, around 69% from the economic perspective. We've got a huge macro environment that's impacting businesses, and things like retention, economic risk, and regulatory, and also Brexit factor. We've also got a hard market, inflationary increases. All of those things are challenges. We've also seen through both this insight and also our own risk insight reports similar outcomes that are challenging the UK businesses, so that the direct customers to the brokers, as well as highlighting the threat of things like the emerging risk around cyber. We saw 27% of respondents rating it in the top 5 risks that they face. And I think all of those insights are really critical to what we then respond to and how we develop. So one of the key things that we launched at the start of this year, despite all the pandemic and the way we're working, is obviously our cyber product on digital. And I think the digital capabilities are key to providing some level of enablement of time and space, to going back to the conversation around where needed, if people are needing to provide more time and support in certain areas, digital enables you to give them that time, because you create a level of efficiency and capability. And we're doing that both in the digital trading platforms, but also within our own underwriting teams by providing them with digital insights and sort of decision-making tools that enables them to spend more time on the value-added conversations, which are the things that are the worries that customers have around the economy. And I think David, can perhaps talk about some of the optimism that we're seeing coming through some of the digital channels and potential bounce back, because I think it's very easy for us to get quite concerned about the things that worry us, but there are definitely optics that we're seeing, that there is some level of optimism around that. David, do you want to pick that thread up?
Yeah, absolutely, Maria. Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. I think more than ever there is that combination of headwinds, tailwinds, isn't it, at the moment? But reason to be optimistic. Some of the lead metrics that we're tracking, from our trading, but also the macro environment, you can see that there is more customer or consumer confidence in the market. Different indices like the Purchasing Managers Index is showing, that's increased for a lot of sectors: construction, manufacturing, services. Everyone's getting a bit more confident about where things are heading and the strength of the economic recovery. And we're also seeing it in terms of new business patterns. 2020, no doubt a challenging year We saw the impact of the various lockdowns that had on trading volumes in certain products in the marketplace, but we're definitely seeing that fight back now. I think really good confidence that certain sectors are on the path to economic recovery. Absolutely no doubt that there will be some more challenges ahead as the likes of furlough ends, but I think there's opportunities for a whole wave of new business ventures as well to develop into the marketplace. That will create some great challenge for us as an industry around the new business models they'll present, the new trades that are out there, and how we respond proactively to embrace them with the right insurance covers.
And hi, Raul, is there anything that you could possibly just add on how you feel kind of Aviva and its digital offering can help support brokers mitigate some of the challenges that lie ahead?
I mean, one of the key things, and it doesn't surprise me at all, because it was true before the pandemic, it was true during the pandemic, and it will be true after the pandemic, is that new business and customer retention is considered to be a priority and a risk. I have to say, I think some brokers, talking about the optimism, will see it actually as a very big opportunity. If they've done things really well, then they see that they can write new clients and really ramp that home. So that has always been a challenge for brokers and will only get more difficult. I think it will drive some brokers to decide whether or not they should invest in some technology, perhaps the ones that haven't. And I think it may even drive some to decide that the investment isn't worth it and they want to exit the industry entirely. The ones that don't, I suspect, will very slowly wither on the vine as others do much better than them. Certainly from Aviva's perspective, and Maria touched upon it briefly, we're investing in lots of data beyond just the sort of front end stuff that brokers will see, the fast trade and the software houses, that give our teams, the underwriters that do the more bespoke products, the offline trading, as we might call it, the amount of data and information that can now be pulled from behind the scenes and from a myriad of places is helping them to help brokers identify where there's inadequate cover or gaps in cover. And it's not to take away the broker's job. It's just to say, we've got some information that's giving us indicators that means you can do a better job for your client, because ultimately that's what we need to do. So the brokers, I think, that embrace that stuff and take all that information on, I think will help to mitigate any risk they see in terms of customer retention and new business, because there are so many tools out there. The ones that use it, I think, will do much better in that space.
And Raul, just on that point, I think, Savan mentioned data and analytics and AI as sort of number 2 on that sort of concern list. That is absolutely an area of big investment for us, and we've already started to see the value that can give to our partners in helping them to meet the needs of their customers, because we are going to be going forward, data is key here, isn't it? And the analytics and the AI attached to it. So along with what we're doing in our platforms and extranet, there is a constant dissatisfaction, if a healthy dissatisfaction, that we have not finished that job, that there's more to be done there. So it's interesting that in the survey that the brokers are pointing to that as well, because it does feel as though that's the place where we can win or lose as we go forward.
Thank you very much. I think one area that really comes out in the eTrading survey and in other surveys we've done earlier in the year, every broker is kind of on a journey of digital kind of transformation, and everyone is at different points in that journey, and whether that requires training, more ability to understand what can be used on the different platforms or the BMS systems, the confidence grows. And we found that when we asked brokers how confident they are in matching growing digital expectations of consumers, we actually found an increase in confidence. So last year we found that 66% felt somewhat or very confident, and this proportion had actually increased to 71% this year. to signaling kind of greater confidence amongst brokers. Encouragingly, brokers that felt little or kind of no confidence had reduced year on year. And touching upon some of the areas that brokers felt can really benefit from transforming digitally, we found the 3 leading areas were, as I mentioned kind of earlier, customer retention, employee productivity, and enhanced customer service offering. And I think that will just kind of continue to grow in terms of the benefits that digital transformation can make and really embracing the change. And there is a lot of kind of optimism out there in terms of seeking out new opportunities and new kind of product lines. Now, kind of moving on to the next area, I want to talk about the kind of importance of digital trading and support. Quality of support was a very key area in the eTrading survey this year. And in this chapter, we want to kind of continue to explore the shift and how the world will evolve and as businesses will return to normal. With more businesses now doing more online, they're demanding more from insurers. And the question I have is, what changes are Aviva seeing from brokers?
If I just sort of reinforce that point first, we talked then about customer retention and new business and the experience that brokers have dealing with insurers. Certainly, when I go online for something now, or even to research something, I'll very often get some kind of communication to me, offering me help, offering me support. Certainly when I go and hover over the exit button, it will say, "You sure you don't want to buy this? Because we really think we've got the answer for you." And I think insurers and certainly Aviva are looking at trying to get much better at that, because at the moment I think too many of us let the broker fall out of the system when actually we've got a great solution for their customer. But if they don't know it, or we're not making it very clear to them or helping them access that solution, they will fall out and go to the next easiest solution along. So us investing in technology, investing in people, to make that journey much easier, much slicker, and to be able to access everything that Aviva can offer, I think is of critical importance.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, Saman, the shift that we're seeing is the match in the ambition in the market. So if you look back 5-10 years to the digital capabilities that insurers had, it was very much at the smaller end of the bundled up products and capabilities, the rules-based, the things that were easy. We know that with this shift, that there is more of a demand to start more online and be able to place more sort of complexity through these digital channels. And our strategy is clear that we want to support brokers in enabling to do that. So if you look at the product reach the industry has created, not just Aviva, from when we started with extranets to the platforms to where it is today, it is much broader. But we've still got some way to go to meet the ambitions of the customers who want to trade more in that digital space. So, paying attention to the survey inputs there and being really clear around how we reflect and what we do to support that ambition, because it's very similar for us as well. Actually, we recognise the more that we can start to adopt digital first as an opportunity, but where it's not quite right and it doesn't fit, it's seamless, and we have really quick responsive times and capabilities. And I think we did relatively well in the service response times in the survey. I'm sure David will comment more on that as we go through, but it doesn't mean that we're sitting back and going, great, we're done. That there is, as more demand comes through these channels, we need to be constantly iterating, well, how can we help? And as you move up the complexity ladder, it's more likely that, that customer shape and that bit of data, it's just not going to fit the rules base that we had. And so it needs to be caught quickly, responded to quickly in a way that supports the broker demand. David, do you want to follow up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the key thread of enabling brokers to do more digitally is something we feel quite passionate about. I think we certainly recognise, one key opportunity in the commercial combined product area. I noted yesterday Polaris saying that is a key area of growth in the marketplace as well. We see the opportunity. We want to work with our brokers in order to realise that opportunity. I think the kind of key threads for us in that space is how do we enhance our quotability. So that's a challenge we're taking on quite seriously to really up our quotability, and I think some of the changes we have in flight will absolutely start to deliver on that ambition. At the same time, there is more demand for flexibility. So as we get that more complex risk, we have to have a little bit more flexibility in a digital model. So that's another area we're looking at, whether it's our cover range and what's in our kind of core cover range or what could be optional, or also our operating model and service model that sits behind it and how we respond to that, recognizing the expectations from our brokers of the contact they expect for certain types of risks. So that is absolutely a key theme we have as for the next year or so ahead, and one we're quite excited about. Another kind of strand linked to that would be specialty lines. So, those are products that have been out there for a number of years in the marketplace, but we think the adoption levels are still pretty low. So that's another opportunity where we can, in a post-pandemic world, I think, as that general adoption is stronger, really see a bit more, digital acceleration in the specialty lines, as that behaviour changes. I think a third strand for me is, let's not ignore the products we have in the marketplace, which are fairly mature. We still need to keep driving those forward. So that's another area for us, is how do we make those products better in terms of, again, the reach, the covers that are out there. The latest one we've looked at is our office and surgery offering. So again, we've challenged ourselves around the likes of our sums insured limits. How can we make that bolder in terms of what's out there? How do we allow our brokers to trade more through that product? So we've uplifted our limit to 7.5 million. We've increased our trade range, and we've challenged ourselves to get our straight through quote rate to be a lot stronger. So that's key areas. And just to pick up on the operational context. So yeah, we're constantly looking at how we evolve our operating model for brokers. If we look at last year, we saw some real shifts in terms of contact with our brokers, linked to their ways of working in COVID, and how we could respond to that. So I think some of the key trends for us would be a lot more contact on our live chat, and also through email, because brokers are working a bit more around the clock in responding to their personal and working lives. So we had to adapt to that. And again, we're also now seeing a bit of an uptick in the calls again, as more and more people start to return to the offices. So we're constantly seeking to adapt in order to be there to serve our brokers.
Thank you very much, David. And yeah, no, we really found that in the eTrading survey this year as well. As you, all three of you are aware, Aviva Fast Trade were awarded 5 stars, and that was actually for the 3rd year running. But of course, brokers quite rightly want there to be continuous improvement, and there's always areas to improve for every platform in the market. Maybe Raoul, I could ask you, so from the survey, we found that brokers want more flexibility online, they want quicker journeys, response times, and slicker referral kind of processes. And as you kind of mentioned, David, having those lines of communication open was very key. And I found that in the survey, reading a lot of the broker comments, whether it's through live chat or email or telephone, or even suggestions such as more kind of video calling, all the options brokers really want to have available to them, because time is money, and of course want to work at a fast-paced speed. Raoul, could you just touch upon about how you'll kind of continue to support businesses and look at these areas of improvement for the year ahead?
Yeah, I mean, certainly David and Maria can probably give you more detail on exactly what we're going to do, but certainly the role of my team, and I would encourage all brokers, is getting that access to the feedback, being honest about the journey that brokers are going on, the problems that they experience, the innovation that they've got going. My team, their job is to make sure that that is visible to the people within Aviva that are actually making these decisions on where to spend our money and what areas to invest in. So we will continue to do that via a number of different means to gather the feedback as best we can, because that, as we've said several times in this call, that is absolutely critical to Maria and David and the teams that they run. Without it, we're running blind, and we were chatting about this yesterday. What you do without that feedback is you often then just turn to the lowest common denominator, which is how can we do things more efficiently, rather than how can we do things that benefit the customer and the broker. If we have that feedback on how we do that better, then the innovation stories will tell themselves, the investment stories will tell themselves.
Yeah, and I think as well, the innovation is not just in the servicing support that we provide behind the sort of digital platforms. We saw, I'm sure David or Raoul might have better data points than I do on this, but even our prevention capability, our arms, survey, clearly they weren't able to get out and about, and actually we saw quite a lot of digital innovation in that space, which when we talk about what's going to be the new norm, I think it's going to be a blend of the things that we've done as a result of the post-pandemic, that we go, actually more of that is really helpful, because what it does is it gets a speed of response, it's the convenience, it gets an answer really quickly, and it enables the time to be spent where the real value add is from a people perspective. So a bit like Raoul, I always worry when we talk about digital as being the efficiency lens. I think it does create a level of efficiency, but it's how you reinvent that and reinvest that efficiency to get better outcomes for our customers. And that's probably the thing that we're constantly working through around how do we provide better value time in the way that we do interact when it's not through a digital channel, and also from the digital channels is constantly paying attention to the journeys that we've built and looking at how can we optimize them, how can we make them better. I think we had some really good feedback. As we said, we don't always get it right. Our single vehicle launch was great, but we had some problems in the first couple of months, and we reacted really quickly and responded and dealt with that. And I think that's the thing in this environment. Digital doesn't mean that we stop listening and stop engaging with our customers, because you've got to keep listening to what's on their minds. Thank
you very much, Maria and David and Raoul.
If I just go a few additional comments on that. So I think some of the key themes over the next 12 months would be the digital breadth. How do we get to a wider range of digital opportunity for our broker market? So as I've cited, commercial combined product is absolutely one of the key priorities. And then into the specialty lines, we have recently launched a standalone cyber offering into the marketplace. So again, we heard from our brokers that was a critical area where there wasn't many solutions out there. So we launched a standalone product online. Again, we challenged the status quo in the sense of making it an easy experience. Only 9 questions, it'll take a couple of minutes to get a quote. So that's definitely a key development we've already launched. And our next one is going to be a management liability product, and refreshing that product. And quite critically, we're taking the opportunity to try and harmonise, the offering we have digitally and how it fits with our offline offering. Again, we think there's a good opportunity to make that experience seamless for brokers, where you're getting a comparative product online as well.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you very much for the detail and the plans of the next couple of years ahead. I wanted to kind of finalise. The final chapter of this webinar is all about kind of how Aviva continuing to invest and commit to digital and to provide better outcomes for you and your clients. And just before I hand it over to the panel, I just wanted to touch upon the 2021 Insurance Times eTrading survey, where we found a great deal of insights. And I want to say a big thank you to all the brokers that took part nationwide. The eTrading survey was open to UK brokers between February and April of 2021, and a total of 850 brokers nationwide took part. Brokers were asked to rate their e-trading experiences over the last 12 months of business activity. The survey continues to grow, and we know and we really appreciate all the views that brokers put forward. And one of the great things for myself is to see brokers come forward to take part and to see their ideas, what they would want in the next kind of 12 to 18 months, really transformed, and seeing that happen on each of the kind of insurer platforms. Just touching upon the kind of main results of the e-trading survey. So as I mentioned earlier, Aviva Fast Trade has been awarded a 5-star rating for a third consecutive year that Insurance Times has implemented the star rating systems. Brokers gave the platform 5 stars for each of the 5 service areas that we explored. That was usability and trading ease, quality of support. And this year, we also looked at quotability. Aviva Fast Trade evidently provided brokers with a variety of positive options. And just touching upon, David, before I hand it over to you and we discuss a little bit about the journey that Aviva has been on over the last 5 years, I just wanted to inform everyone who's viewing today a bit about the kind of positive trajectory that Aviva Fast Trade has made over the years. So for example, in 2017, Aviva Fast Trade was placed in 5th place amongst insurer extranet platforms. And over the year to 2018, we found a big improvement, which resulted in moving up to 4th position. But then in 2019, there was a big change, and it actually resulted in Aviva being awarded 5 stars from brokers. And in 2020, Aviva Fast Trade again was awarded 5 stars, and a drive to improve on last year's score led to brokers giving the platform 5 stars in each of the 5 areas that we explored, which is very rare to happen in our survey. And they, in 2020, achieved the highest score amongst brokers in usability and trading ease. And as I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, this year Aviva was awarded the 5 stars in overall by brokers, and achieved a 5-star rating in each of the 5 areas that we explored, and we'll explore them a little bit more now. So David, if I could hand over to you and ask you a little bit about your perspective of that journey that Aviva Fast Trade has made over the last 5 years, and tell us a little bit more about the developments and the key things that have really stood out to you that you feel has contributed to that positive trajectory.
Great, thanks, Evan. And I'll firstly just start with how immensely proud we are of the scores across our full Aviva team, and recognise it's actually a contribution of all the different teams within Aviva all coming together really to deliver that. So in terms of our how has that trajectory improved? I think one of the key developments in that earlier in that 5-year time span would be investing in a dedicated change team to really concentrate on the design and delivery of digital change. So really immersing within the world of digital, understanding the pain points for brokers, the pain points for frontline underwriters, and starting to investing all the small changes that make a difference to everyday trading. So I think that was a conscious pivot point in terms of our strategy. And then, if I look at some of the other deliveries, perhaps year 2 of that 5-year journey, we made a lot of changes to our package product set. We took a lot of learnings from thematic FCA review into underinsurance, where we know it's quite critical pointed out that a lot of customers are insured. So we made a number of changes to those wordings to make sure they were fit for purpose and really protected the customers at the moment of need. And then key areas of refresh. So I think our property owners refresh 2018, where again we brought together the ability to trade commercial and residential property owners into a single product. We've talked about our mini fleet proposition launch. That in terms of our single vehicle and NCD, and also really setting ourselves up to be more responsive to brokers around software house trading as well, where in 2020 we launched a dedicated team for brokers who software house trade, and we also introduced a number of functionalities which just make it easier to trade with Aviva. So overall, Simon, I think it's a kind of a combination of investing the right people on the agenda, focusing on some key priorities, and also being responsive to some of the changes in broker trends that we were seeing and the feedback we've been getting. And I think if I can just comment on a little bit more on some of the insight that we take, which has come up a couple of times. I think that's, not to underestimate how critical it is, that insight driving what we focus on and what we change. Whether it's the insight we get from our frontline teams in terms of, transactional feedback, and how critical that is. This is a problem for brokers, to whether it's some of our road shows and really understanding what's important to different types of brokers, because we very much have had great success on fast trade, but we recognize different changes in broker trading patterns, so we want to respond to that, and that's, as you've cited, been part of our strategy to really ensure we move with increasing demand for software house trading as well. So we want to be brokers across fast trade and extranet.
Thank you.
So I think that's some of my highlights.
Oh, thank you very much, David. And I would like to kind of pose that same question to Maria and Raul, just to touch upon the kind of 5-year journey and how the progression that you've seen since you've been with Aviva. Before I hand it over to Maria, I would like to ask everyone if anyone has any questions for Maria, for Raul or David, please feel free to place the questions in the Q&A box, and we'll be happy to answer them at the end of this chapter. So yeah, Maria, just kind of going over kind of what David said and what I touched upon regarding the 5-year journey, and could you tell us a little bit more about how you've seen that progress?
Yeah, so I'd love to say it was all down to us. Actually, first of all, reiterate the thanks for all the brokers that have both taken part in the survey and also on this webinar. It is critical for us that we get input from our brokers to help us to work out what are the right investments and where do we need to go. So I think a couple of years ago, we spent a bit of time out and about. David was part of that himself, spending time in brokers' offices, watching how the frontline teams actually do the trading of the business, and recognizing there were some real pain points and a real clear indicator that the extranets are great, but there was a real shift to the platforms as well. And that's where we took a conscious decision to say we're going to invest in our eTrade platform. So I'm really super proud of the sort of fast trade 5-star, and long may that continue, and it will only continue through continued investment, which we're going to be doing. But also we saw a really big shift in our position on the platform, and that's because we took conscious decisions to invest. We recognized that that's part of what our brokers needed from us, and again, I think the key thing here is, if you go back to some of the other themes that we were talking about, the economy, the worries that brokers have, there's going to be more investment in product reach. That's absolutely critical for us. So in ensuring that we can both adapt the products and reach the product capability that the brokers want to trade with us, both through the extranet and platform. And I think the other part, sorry, my system just crashed then, good digital intervention. And then making sure that we're in a position to really support the sort of horizon to what's coming in the next 2 years, because you have to think about that now. You can't sit and go, great, well we're there. You've got to keep looking forward.
I mean, David and Maria have covered most of the main developments that we've had over the last 5 years, but I would certainly just sort of reiterate, the survey pulled out one of the biggest risks has been around regulation and compliance, and one of the areas that I do think we wrestled with it long and hard. We'd invested a huge amount in fast trade. It was a system that's increasingly working well for us. To then be brave enough to shift our strategy because of broker feedback, and Maria mentioned there the literally Maria and David sitting in a broker's office watching the journey and the pain and the suffering that the frontline staff go through, as well as of course a broker who needs management oversight of the work that their teams are doing. The fact that we've been prepared to change that strategy and change a direction that was very much set in stone for a while, I think just shows we are prepared to listen, and we will continue to evolve, and we will continue to challenge ourselves. Like we're not the 5-star on Insurance Times, like we're 3-star, constantly acting like we've got lots to learn and lots of improvements to make. And I think that is what will hopefully help us continue along this so far very successful journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Raoul, Maria and David. I would like to kind of open up with some questions from the audience. And I have a question here, and feel free to jump in who feels confident to answer. So how do you see working with aggregators evolving?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think, we can look over the fence and see how it's been working in the personal line space. I think at this stage, if there is more of a demand in that space, then we'll need to consider our position. But at the moment, yeah, don't know, David or Raoul, if you've got any other comments you want to.
Yeah, I think I'll just say, so relative to personal lines, it's still rather immature in the commercial lines marketplace. I think the inherent complexity of risk for customers in creates a sort of a natural barrier, because we have to make sure the cover is right for the customers. So there's potential barriers to how far it could mature in commercial lines, but clearly the driver for efficiency for brokers, customers to get access through online channels, that is a natural channel that is set to evolve. And but I do think absolutely a range of other alternative models which will continue to flourish at the same time.
And all I'd add to that is we're absolutely 100% behind the expert advice and the value that a broker brings. So for us at the minute, that is really the only show in town. Yes, we'll be open-minded to whatever's coming on the horizon, because if we're not, some kid in San Francisco will take our lunch from all of us. But we couldn't be more committed to brokers, the broker channel, and the value and the advice that you and the service that you give your customers.
Thank you very much, everyone. I have another question, and I'm keen to ask you all before we finish for today. So if each of you could just maybe briefly touch upon where you feel, what trends do you see coming in the next 2 years in the broker market, and how do you kind of plan to respond?
Okay, well, I'll pick up a couple of threads and then hand over. So in terms of what trends, I think digital adoption will just continue to accelerate. I also believe that the technology that brokers need to be able to use with their customers to be able to interact will also be critical for them as customers are seeking more digital responses. I do suspect that as a result of the pandemic, we saw a lot of customer demand where, almost insurance of things, insurance on demand. I think that could be an emerging market for certain classes of business that we all need to pay attention to, and it is something that we're watching and considering as part of our developments. David, I don't know, that's sort of my top 3. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, no, I completely align with those. I think just sort of add maybe two for me would be rising up the stack in terms of the value of the traded business that could be done on digitally. So as I've alluded to, commercial combined being an area, but I think just generally those thresholds being lifted digitally, I think there's a great opportunity for us as an industry to move up. I think the other bit is cyber as well, where clearly we know it's a growing area. It's a key risk for businesses, as we've heard. So I think the adoption of cyber should also flourish in the next couple of years. I think obviously as the cash flow of different businesses improves, that will support the adoption of that cover in addition to the wider covers. How about you, Raoul?
I suppose the only other thing to add on that to that is, for want of a better phrase, telematics for non-motor type products. So the amount of data now that can be transmitted via cameras within businesses, leak detection systems within businesses, movement detection, and how I think that can help us evolve in terms of understanding risk better. And providing better solutions to customers. So, there's certainly some work going on at Aviva whereby we are looking at that agenda and seeing how we can not only mitigate a customer's risk, but also take data from that to enable us to sort of shape our products, our services, and our proposition going forward.
Thank you very much, everyone. I want to kind of finish off today with just a final question we have from a member of the audience. A really interesting question. One area, the person says, one area that doesn't seem to have been impacted or changed throughout the pandemic is the accounts end of things. Is this because there isn't any room for improvement, or do you think there are any new digital innovations in the pipeline that could be adopted to improve this area of business for both brokers and clients?
So I think whoever's asking that question probably knows that there is. I think that whole capability and function, if you look at some of the emerging, open banking, all of the capabilities that are arriving in that sector have really not hit the insurance sector in the way that we collect and manage our premiums. So yes, I do think that is ripe for transformation. What does that look like? Don't know, but it definitely has to look better than it does today, because I think, and I'm sure Raoul's got probably more broker stories on this than I have, but I think, our collections and accounting function is definitely an area that we all sort of tend to forget in the end-to-end value chain, and actually it's really important. And if we can improve the quality of that activity, I think it would be a benefit to all parties. So, but yes, I think it's right for transformation.
No question. We still walk into brokers' offices and there's staff that are sat there with rulers going with a line through every single account, and I think we need to work much harder at that to make that a much more efficient, slick, seamless almost. It's not the sort of thing really that I think needs a whole department or division to be doing these days, but for some reason it just doesn't seem to have touched us for too long now.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about the ability to do as an individual on your own mobile phone and deal with everything really slickly. And if you think about the sort of accounting function in insurers, we're probably some way behind that. So yeah, definite opportunity.
Oh, fantastic, Maria and Raoul. There's a number of other questions, but I think we've run out of time today, and we will provide you with those questions, and I hope you'll be able to answer them for everyone who's kind of joined the audience today. So yeah, no, I want to use this opportunity to thank everyone that is watching today, and to all the brokers that contributed to the 2021 eTrading survey. And yeah, we really appreciate your support and everyone watching here today. And we look forward to speaking on many interesting topics. I'm sure there'll be so many interesting topics to explore in the year ahead. And yeah, no, thank you so much for for viewing today, and we shall all see you all very soon.